All right, everybody likes this guy right now, Russell Wilson, getting a lot of MVP buzz. He's hurt my feelings a couple times. One, he's a rival podcaster now, and two, he beat my favorite team, the Patriots, a couple weeks ago. So I'm not going to kiss your ass like everybody else is. I'm kind of mad at you, but it's nice to have you on anyway.
Well, Bill, I'm pissed at you still. You still took a Super Bowl ring from me. You
That's true.
Tom Brady and Butler. But the reality is that we've edged you here the past couple of times we've played the Patriots. I know you're a big Patriots fan out here. So
why are these Seahawks-Patriots games always like classics? I don't know what it is about the matchup.
It's always an epic one. It always goes down to the wire. I remember my rookie year actually was one of my biggest, most clutch moments because I think it really woke people up to this guy could possibly play for us now and do some things special in this league. And it was probably, I don't know what game it was of the year, but it was probably the 6th or 7th, 8th game of the year. And we were actually down by quite a bit. And we came back and won the game with like 1 minute to go in Seattle, which was epic against Tom and great matchup. And then obviously we played you guys in the Super Bowl. That was a crazy game down the wire. Unfortunately, we didn't win that one. And then we went to Foxborough and played you guys, I think, a year or two later. And that one came down, and it was back and forth. Tom and I battling back and forth. And then we had actually stopped you guys on 4th and 1 on the 1 yard line in Foxborough. And then this past time, we played you guys with Cam Newton now, which was a different change and an amazing game. And going up against y'all's defense had so much special players, and we were able to one up you there, but barely. But they've always been great games. I think Coach Belichick's just such an amazing coach, and he understands the game so well, and he has his players, prepared. And I think Coach Carroll, same way, he has us prepared, and it's pretty fascinating.
Well, and Carroll has the little, he was on the Patriots, got fired after 3 years, so I think he always has a little extra for us too.
Yeah, I think he's still probably pissed at Robert Kraft. I don't know.
I remember that first Seahawks game, going back to your rookie season. I felt like that game put you on the map because that was also not just because you did well, but that was afterwards when Sherman went at Brady a little bit in the post game, and there was like a real swagger with the team. And I remember being really conflicted because I picked you guys to make the Super Bowl that year. I liked all the stuff I was reading about you in the training camp, and sometimes I always like to look at the stuff when the coaches and the teammates are talking about new guys. There's like this different level when somebody is obviously resonating in a real way, and you can kind of pick it up from the quotes. All the stuff about you guys, about you back then was like, hey, this is different. This is something special about this guy. And I was trying to come up, so I picked you. And then you came in New England and beat us and had this swagger. And it was like, oh, this is really happening. This team. And then you guys were in the mix basically from that year on. Were you surprised that it happened that fast? Because you're right out of college.
Yeah, I think for me, was I surprised? No. I think was the world surprised? Yes. I think, me, to be honest with you, 5'11", black quarterback out of Richmond, Virginia, went to NC State, went to Wisconsin. I was going against the odds a little bit, and I'm barely reaching 5'11".
Right.
But, and I think that I got the opportunity. I came in, into the league, third round pick, 75th pick overall. And I think I had all the attributes besides the height, and everything else. And so fortunately for me, I was able to play around a great, group of guys that were that were just great players. Guys could make some plays on defense and offense, and be in the backfield, me and Marshawn, and just making plays. And then also, all the players that we had, obviously on defense too as well. We had some Hall of Fame type players on defense, and that was we had so much attitude. We had so much swagger. We stepped in, with so much, energy every practice, and that really prepared me as a rookie. Bill.
Yeah.
It really helped me prepare as a rookie, and I think that really helped set the tone. Because if I was going to fight, if I was going to be great, if I wanted to be where I am today, you have to be mentally tough. Every day at practice, and you're playing one of the best defenses of all time every day, so you get prepared fast. And
how much shit were they talking to you back then? Your defense and the scrimmages and stuff, and you're the new guy trying to prove yourself.
It was all the time, not just to me, but to everybody. I mean, it was, it was. Guys talking so much stuff. The borderline, fighting, and if not, I feel like we had a fight every day. If we didn't have a fight at practice, something was wrong.
Right.
But But yeah, I think that was a good way to set the tone because I think we were all underdogs. We were all guys who were late round picks or whatever it may be, and I think that was the thing that helped set the tone for us.
Yeah, that was a good chip on the shoulder team. Even to the coach, because he comes back to the NFL after being at USC, and it's still like, really? We already saw this guy as an NFL coach twice, and everybody on that team had something to prove. There's so many strong personalities that, you have a football locker room and you have like 10 alpha dogs in there, right? Like in retrospect, that's a little unusual, right? Could you feel that at the time? Especially you're supposed to be the alpha dog, you're the quarterback.
Well, I think that we definitely had, alpha dogs in every position. The thing that made that team so great, though, Bill, was really the fact that we had so many great backups. I mean, our second string of defensive line, our second and third and fourth corner nickels and guys who, we could all play, and I think, as a rookie class coming in that year, me and Bobby Wagner and Bruce Irvin and guys like that, we came in, they gave us an F grade, first of all. And so we were pissed off. We were ready to roll. We wanted to set the tone. We wanted to change the circumstances. And I remember my teammate, my roommate, Robert Turbin, who was one of my best friends in the world, he was the backup running back. It was one of those things that, we always talked about, where we're going and the work ethic that and so we Bobby and I still to this day, we said, don't get bored with consistency. Don't get bored with consistency. And so I think that's been a big, central part of, I think, our success, especially for guys like Bobby and I, is just the work ethic, the consistency of it all. And nothing's changed.
Well, you had a huge advantage that I don't think people fully realized what an advantage it was until you were succeeding in the Seahawks. You're on this rookie contract. You're pretty cheap, right? You're this cheap asset, but you're one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Everything comes together for them because now instead of spending a huge amount of money at the quarterback position, they can put that in other places. And you had this 4-year window of like, holy shit, this is an aberration. Like, it's a little like when Durant went to the Warriors that one year, the cap spiked in the NBA. And it was like, oh my God, like this is really unusual. You guys had that too. That 4 years there, I would say the over-under for Super Bowls you should have won was probably 1.5. And it ended up going to 1, but you think like the Patriots came down to 1 play. But that team was really realistically could have competed every year in a Super Bowl and maybe even won 3, right?
Yeah, I think we could have won 3. I think the second one, obviously, we were actually winning, with 7 minutes to go, 6 minutes to go by 10 or 12 or 13.
Yeah, 10.
I don't go back and watch the game too much.
Right.
But we were winning by 2 scores. I know that. And they came back and won the game. But I think that
your
that
rookie
game was
year too, that was another one that you guys easily
we actually had a great game against the Atlanta Falcons actually and came back. We were down 20, came back in the fourth quarter. I think we were down 20 with 12 minutes to go.
And you went ahead.
Back.
Didn't they? They got ahead. Like the last minute field goal, right?
Yeah, I think we went ahead with 31 seconds to go, and they got a last second field goal with no time on the clock, and we felt like we could have won the Super Bowl that year. And then, really, so my third year, obviously, that's the year we lost. We won my second year. We lost my third year, and then the fourth year, we actually had a really good team there. But I think what really happened is we got a lot of some significant injuries, and that year, and unfortunately, and things kind of changed there. But now where we are now with the team that we have, I think that everybody's so clicked in, locked in, zoned in into what we're doing and how we're doing it. And guys like Jamal Adams, special player, guys, like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and obviously Bobby and KJ Wright's playing great football. So I think we got a chance this year. We just got to stay the course. This whole COVID thing, changes a lot of things in terms of, your worries. And you have to really take care of yourself. It's bye week right now. And, for me, we can't really go anywhere. I can't do anything. And so just, you never know when things are going to change. You don't know if they're going to shorten the season. You don't know any of that. So every game's a championship moment. And we've always said that, but it really is this year.
Yeah, we were doing a podcast with Pete and Steve Kerr, which we did like 10 episodes of during the first few months of the pandemic. And it was interesting talking to him, like when we were wrapping up probably like the last two, was like, hey, what's going on? When do you guys go back? And he's like, we're having these giant Zoom meetings. We don't know when we'll start practicing. They're claiming the season's going to start on time. And it really did seem like it was happening by the seat of everybody's pants just this season, which I imagine like for football is probably the worst possible sport to do that, right?
Yeah, if you let it catch you by surprise. For me, I just kept telling. I have a whole performance team in it. I got a whole group. I got a full-time trainer that travels with me everywhere. Works with Sierra too. Like his name's Decker Davis. I have a full-time PT, Amy. I have a full-time, mobile person that's working on me, that's making sure that I'm, moving, the right way and everything else. I have a full-time massage person. We have 2 chefs. So we have a whole performance team. And the reality
this sounds like LeBron. You went full LeBron on us.
Oh yeah, I've been doing it for 5 years or so, 6 years now.
Do you have the hyperbaric chamber?
I got I got everything. I got all the toys. I got the hyperbaric. I got 2 hyperbaric chambers. I got 2 hyperbaric chambers. I got a little bit of everything. But I think the thing is, and I get in the hyperbaric, for example, I don't know, 4 times a week, 3 times a week. I get treatment every day. There's not a time. Somebody asked me this. My quarterback coach asked me the other day, Austin Davis is great. He goes, he played in the NFL and, and all that. And now he's my quarterback coach. But he said, Russ, how many days do you think, him and Greg Olson, how many days do you think you do, body work? How many days? It's more so how many days I don't. I said, I do 365.
Yeah.
365. The only time I don't, I probably do 363. Really, the reality is Christmas. Depending on the circumstances. I mean, usually I do because we usually have a game around then, and Thanksgiving. So it depends. I'm in between 363 and 365 amount of work that we do every day. Something around the body work, and because I'm trying to play till I'm 45 at least, And so for me, my mentality is that I'm going to leave it all on the field and do everything I can to take care of myself. And I think that's such a critical thing, because if I feel good, I'm going to play good. And I think, and that's why I've been able to be out in the field every time.
Well, your generation is learning from the generation right ahead of you, right? So you got the LeBron Brady guys who were the first guys that have just basically demolished what our perception was of somebody's prime, right? LeBron's been in his prime. He won MVPs in 2009 and 2010, and he's still in his prime now. It's a 12-year prime. Brady was, he's probably past his prime now because he's 43, but his prime extended all the way through those second run of Super Bowls. And it's all the same lessons, right? It's take care of your body to a level that nobody thought was even conceivable. Dieting, sleep, hyperbaric chamber, and you have to commit to it every day, right? It's not you can take July off. It's this every single day thing. And I think that's what people miss with like the stuff that LeBron's doing. Like, I remember somebody told me he probably spends like $2 million a year in his body, something like that, just to be able to recover. Because the recovery is the biggest thing, right? For you, is the same thing, right? That Monday, you have to recover.
Yeah, I mean, I probably spend $1 million, if not more, a year, just on recovery. And because, but it's not just the recovery part of it. That's huge, right? And getting that. But, for me, the biggest thing, you mentioned the body, all that stuff. But the biggest thing for me is the mental game. The mental game is so important. I actually even created a business called Limitless Minds around it. But Trevor Moad and I, he's number one, mental, coach, sports mental coach in the game. He's worked with Alabama, Florida State. He worked with Nick Saban for years. He works with Georgia. He works with OKC Thunder, the Clippers. Some of the best teams, Michael Johnson. So I've known him for 10, 11 years. He was the director of performance at IMG for a long time. And we talk about this idea about, listen, I'm a positive person by nature, Bill. I believe in positivity. I believe in that, a lot of stuff. And I'm definitely that by nature. But the reality is that when you're down by a bunch, when you're down by 16 or whatever it may be, and it may be the, NFC championship game, and you're down to the Packers, and the reality is that there's only 2 minutes and 50 seconds to go. It's really hard to be positive to guys. Hey man, we're and being super upbeat. But the reality is, being negative is never going to get you anywhere. 100% of the time, negativity is always going to work. So for me, I always think about this idea around, being neutral. You think about a car when, you downshift to neutral. Well, for me, I always think about, shifting to neutral because, in the midst of everything, I want to have a neutral mindset. I think the greatest, and one of the things that Trevor and I, and my brother Harry and DJ have studied with Limitless Minds and working with some of the best companies in the world, is that the reality is that the best players, the best companies, the best CEOs. The reality is, and they may not even know it sometimes, but it's being neutral in the midst of chaos. And so when we're playing, on Sunday night against the Vikings and things aren't going great, and they just made an interception, and unfortunately, and now our defense gets a huge stop on 4th and 1, I go straight to neutral. I've been neutral all day. And so I'm letting the guys know this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to get done. This is how we're going to win the game. And it gives guys vision. I think the same thing in life, and when you get cancer or somebody gets cancer, right? The reality is that, and I've seen this 1,000 times over again, because Sierra and I go to Seattle Children's Hospital every Tuesday. And one of the things is that all the rooms, when the rooms are super negative or, just overly positive, we're like, oh, we're going to be okay, something. It's very hard for that young child to overcome it. But when the kid's like, I have cancer, but we're going to get through this, and how I'm going to get through it is point 1, point 2, point 3. Boom. And it's amazing. It's amazing just seeing how, the families come together and just they keep their faith and keep believing because of that. And I think the same thing when, COVID happens and everything else is going on in the world. Well, it's not just happening to you, it's happening to everyone. Now, your circumstances may be worse than the next person to your left or your right, but somebody always has it worse. So how are you going to respond? How are we going to respond? How are we going to overcome this situation, relationships, everything else? All of that, right, is how do you find the best version of you? And I think that's something that I've really, really invested in, spent a lot of time on, and just really believe that not just my body physically being great, but also my mind being at the highest level that I can possibly be at in the midst of chaos.
Do things slow down for you in big moments where, like take example, Sunday night, Minnesota, 4th and 1, they could kick the field goal, go up 8. By the way, tangent, what are you rooting for them to do in that situation? Because this was a big nerd argument in football about whether they should have gone for it or kick the field goal. I bet on Minnesota, which was my mistake betting against you. But
come on, Bill. I think you knew better than that.
No, they covered though. But my thought was like, just kick the field goal. They still have to score a touchdown and a 2-point. If you don't get the 4th and 1 now, Wilson's definitely beating you if he's down 5. He's going down and scoring. What do you want them to do as you're watching from the sidelines?
Well, 2 things. One, I want if they go for the field goal, I want them to miss it. A lot of times field goal kickers have missed it, and we actually have history
because it's raining too.
Yeah, it's raining, and who knows? So if they miss it there, they're in trouble too. But also, if they get it there, if they obviously get the first down, I think the move by the coaches is honestly a sign of respect and just saying, hey, listen, we got to end this game because
they don't want you on the field.
Yeah. But I think that I have great confidence in our defense making a play if they go on 4th and 1. And sure enough, we were able to make the play. I mean, I think Cody Barton and Bobby Wagner made an unbelievable play, and so
yeah.
I was like,
and then you're
go.
fired up, but then you're trying to stay neutral at the same time, right? Because you got this chance. But you zone out. Did things slow down? Because that's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
It does seem like for you and for Brady and a couple others, when there's moments like that, it seems like you lock in an almost a different way. But I don't know. Does it slow down for you a little? And if it does, how do you make it slow down?
Things become still, then just slow down. Things become still. I think that for me, how it happens is because I've already trained my mind on it every day. I mean, every day I'm working on something around, my mentality and slowing down. I even try to slow down. I try to slow down my heart rate physically.
Really?
Literally try to slow down my heart rate physically and just, try to make my heartbeat just go slower, And so for me, I think the ability to slow the game down in the midst of chaos while everybody else is moving fast and everybody's talking fast and try to talk slow. And that's something that I've really captured, I think. But also, I think that when you do speak, you speak vision. You give vision to guys of what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. You look guys in the eye. I'm old school, I'm a romantic by heart, Bill. When Sierra and I go on dates and stuff like that, I I try to do my best to put my phone down and really look at her in the eye. I'm gonna stare in her eye and seduce her by looking in her eye the whole time. I'm not gonna come off of it. It's one of those things that. So it's the same thing when I'm in the huddle with guys in a different way. I'm trying to get something done in one way with Sierra. The other way is just trying to win the game. But I think the reality is that you try to give guys confidence of, okay, this guy's aware. Heck, here we go. And then all the studying. I mean, I've done hours and hours and hours of film work and preparation. I mean, in the midst of all that, I already feel like I've been here. I already know what they're going to do. They already know what we're going to do. And meaning that they're like, oh, shoot, they're going to probably win this game. And I want them to feel that every time I walk in the field. I think when you play guys like, Tom, just as I watch him on TV or whatever it may be, it's like you feel like he's going to win the game every time at the end of the game. When I watched Michael Jordan when I was a young kid, I mean, you knew who was getting the ball, and you knew what was going to happen. And he may pass it, whatever, but he's going to make the right decision. But the reality is that if he gets a chance, you believed he was going to make it every time.
Right.
Same thing I feel about Tiger Woods when he was at his height of his career. I mean, that clutch putt, you just knew he was going to make it. You just felt like he's going to make this. The other thing is I think about Derek Jeter. When he comes up to the plate, I think about two plays with Derek Jeter. One, when the ball goes down the right field line, he goes and runs down. He's not supposed to be there, but he runs and just instinctually goes and gets the ball and flips it behind his back and tags the guy out at home. Posada tags the guy out at home. That was some of my favorite memories when Derek Jeter comes up to the plate for his last at bat. And of course, he gets a first pitch base hit and wins the game. I mean, that's because he's already played it through his head. And so for me, I've already played it through my head. My dad used to always talk about, visualization when I was young. Visualize where you're going to be. Son, you're 26 years old. I was 9 years old. Son, you're 26 years old. What are you doing? Where are you at? Talk to me there. And I would start off like, well, Dad, I'm here. No, that's not good enough, son. Take me there. Take me there. And so for me, I think that's always been something that I've always believed in is, I want to feel the ground. I want to feel every dimple of the ball. I want to be in that moment, so in tune that, and remaining neutral in the midst of it all, that I think it's going to help me be successful more times than not.
I spent 2 days with Bill Russell in 2012, ironically in Seattle, because he lives in Mercer Island.
Yep.
And he was talking about what he went through mentally before games, where like 5-6 hours before the game, he would just spend all that time visualizing how he thought the game was going to go and what moves different. Like if they're playing the Lakers, like just thinking about all the different ways Jerry West might try to attack him offensively and what he was going to do. And he was like, by the time the game started, I'd already played the game in my head and it was actually kind of easy to do it. And he was like, one of the reasons I had to retire was I couldn't keep that energy in my head anymore of being able to carry that for 5 hours and bring it to the game. I was just like too tired from it. It's the same thing, right? It's almost like half of the battle is that 5-6 hours before the game or whatever to imagine what's going to happen in the game. Then you're ready. It sounds like what you're saying.
Oh, 100%. I actually really close with Bill Russell too. And he lives, 5-10 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time with him. He's an amazing man. Amazing. He's super funny, by the way. This man will say anything. Bill cracks me up. But, one of the things that make Bill Russell, listening from my grandfather and my dad so much about him was, like you said, he knew the game so well and he understood his teammates so well too as well.
Yeah, he said he used to scout
it transferred. Yeah, I mean, he just understood the game so well, the ins and outs of it. And I think that visualization is a lost art in this generation. I think it's the work ethic and the mentality is a lost art. The guys who really study the game and fully understand it and work at their craft, those are the guys who are the most successful more times than not. And history shows that too.
It's a good lesson for younger athletes too. Like even my daughter hadn't played soccer for 9 months because of COVID and then had a tournament last weekend. And she was like, I haven't had contact in games, since March. And I was like, and I was thinking about the Bill Russell thing. And I was like, you just got to think in your head, like remember what to do, like visualize different things and where you go and where you're supposed to be, and just concentrate on that the couple hours before. It is weird that people don't think that way, where, and I'm sure LeBron does it. I'm sure all the great ones do it. And as you learn, did you know how to do that instinctively when you got in the league, or was it something you realized like 4 or 5 years in?
No, I knew how to do it instinctively. I did it since high school and college. Honestly, my dad he had always kind of had me doing it, but I will say my craft has grown. You always building a craft, and the more you practice it. What I found out in the pros though was not just doing it on game day or the night before the game, but I do it daily now.
Yeah.
It's a daily gift. It's a daily craft. And how many times throughout the day, it's not just trying to do it once a day. It's how many times can I visualize throughout the day that get me prepared? And how many times throughout the day can I remain neutral throughout the day?
Interesting.
And so there's so many highs and lows. There's so many pressures playing this position, being one of 32 men in the world, and all the responsibilities that it carries, and being the face of a franchise, and being with all the things going on in America right now, being African-American, playing quarterback, all the things that come with it, family too, kids, and worry about your family and kids and everything else too as well. And just all these things going on, COVID, right? COVID's going on, all these distractions, all these real things that are life scenarios. It all has played into this year in so many different ways. And so the one thing that I knew, really two things that I knew, was football, the ball's going to be kicked off at some point.
Yeah.
And Russell Wilson's going to be ready when the ball's kicked off. That was the thing I told my performance team. Doesn't matter. I don't care. When the ball's kicked off, we're going to be ready. And that was the first thing. The second thing was, which is probably the most important thing, is that adjusting in the midst of the chaos and knowing that there's going to be changes. And how will you adjust to the changes? See, greatness is not just, it didn't just happen you being consistently great when things are great and good and easy. It's really about being consistently great when there's adversity. And how fast can you change in the midst of adversity? And I think that's really what I've understood, and I think that I've really learned in the process, and I've obsessed over the years.
It was really fun watching Brady for almost 20 years there. And occasionally he would drop a little tidbits about that position and things he'd learned. And one of my favorite ones was about how he learned to prepare for being in a Super Bowl, and how different a Super Bowl was than any other game because of the lead up to the game and then how long the halftime was. And he was saying basically the first time he was in against the Rams, he was so hyped. And there's that famous video of him before the game, like headbutting teammates. They go out, they take a 14-3 lead. And by the time he got to halftime, he was like wiped.
Yes.
It's like he'd played the Super Bowl. And it's like, no, there's a 35-minute break. And then there's a whole second half. So by the time he got to that Atlanta game, when they had the famous comeback, he was in what you call neutral, where he's just like, he's trying to save it. He knows it's a different game. He's trying to pace himself so that he peaks at the right time. You must have felt the same way after your 2 Super Bowl experiences, right? If you get back there, similar philosophy, right?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, the cool thing is my rookie year, I was fortunate to, get rookie of the year and do all that stuff and go to New Orleans. The Super Bowl is actually in New Orleans. And I actually went to go watch the Super Bowl there. And it was the famous Super Bowl between the 49ers and the Ravens.
Oh, yeah. I went to that one. Yeah.
And Destiny's Child came out, and Beyonce and everything else. And Beyonce, Kelly, and Michelle are out there. And next thing you know, the lights cut off, the shut off, boom. And I knew the halftime was about 30 minutes. Next thing you know, it's a freaking hour and a half or whatever it was before they started playing football again. And I'll never forget that in my rookie year. I was sitting there. I was sitting there in the box, and I was watching the game, and I was like, okay. I got there 2-3 hours before I had done that. I think the broadcasting before. I think it was for CBS or something. I was sitting there with Bill Cowher and those guys and talking to them. And I was asking those guys about the Super Bowls. And one of the things they said, well, Russ, one thing when you get here, man, it's a long halftime now. So just know that. So I was paying attention to that. And pregame, everybody's excited, but just it'll be interesting to see the quarterbacks and how they come in and how can they remain calm. Well, fast forward, the halftime happens, and as I'm watching the game just play out, guys are gassed, guys are tired, guys are getting injured, this and that. And so I'll never forget, coming back home to Seattle, and I got back to Seattle after that. And I told Coach Carroll and I told Tater, my quarterback coach at the time, I said, well, guys, I got the secret. And then they're like, well, what is it? I said, I think we should take a shower at halftime and just restart again. Let's restart again and just, be fresh and be ready to roll. Well, like, really? I was like, well, think about it. Halftime's 35 minutes. I mean, just to put new pads on, re-stretched in the locker room. And sure enough, that's what we did. When we played the Broncos in New York, it was supposed to be snowing like crazy and everything else. And it was a perfect night. I mean, at the full moon, Joe Namath comes out in his mink coat and everything else. And, he does the coin toss and he says, the ref does the coin toss and they flip the coin toss. And meanwhile, it's Joe Namath, Peyton Manning, and Champ Bailey on the other side. And it's me over here. And I think Keith Farwell and I think Red Bryant, the captains. And these Hall of Famers on that side. And the ref gives the coin toss. We're the away team. He gives the coin to Joe and you have the honor to flip the coin toss. And Joe flips it and he doesn't even give me a chance to say heads or tails. And the ref catches it midair. He goes, Joe, you got to let Russ say heads or tails. Right. And Joe Namath looks at me, leans in with his mink coat, and Peyton's laughing and everything else. And he leans in and he says, Russ, I always had a quick release. and that's when everything broke. The ice broke for me in that moment. I was like, man, This is amazing. I'm here. But what I understood about that game is we went back into the locker room. When we were up at the time, we went back in the locker room. I showered up. I put my pads back on. I just felt like I was prepared then. And so when we played the second time, we felt like we were prepared. And unfortunately, we didn't win the game. But I think preparation, the separation is in the preparation. How you prepare, how you get your mind right more than anything else, especially for those moments. And I fundamentally believe it's really important to play with great emotion, but not being emotional.
Yeah.
And there's a difference. And to be able to balance, that's key.
Do you feel like you're better this year than you've been before, or they're just letting you throw more?
I think I'm playing the best, that I've played. I think, just I'm seeing everything so clear. I mean, I've definitely had great years before, I think, but it should be a progression. When I was a rookie, and speaking of Peyton Manning, I was a rookie right before I actually became a rookie. You fly to every team, and I'll never forget this. It was my last team I got to go see, and Denver Broncos had just signed Peyton Manning. I was in the locker. I went to the locker room. He was in there. It's just me and Peyton. He goes, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" And I'm like, "Well, Peyton, my name's Russell Wilson. I went to NC State." He said, "Oh yeah, I coached you at my passing academy." I said, "Yeah." And he had picked the top 12 guys, and I was one of them. And I have a picture of it. It's pretty cool. And so anyways, I'm looking at him, and when I got there, the first thing I noticed is he was taking notes and highlighting, and it's just him sitting there in the locker room by himself. This is the first week he had gotten there. He had all these notes and things. And so I think that one of the things that I noticed about it was the amount of studying and preparation that he put into it, right?
Yeah.
And so when I got back on the plane to fly back home to Virginia, I started writing out my goals. And my goals, I wrote down everyday goals, and I wrote down legacy goals. And I still have it in my locker to this day. And one of the goals that I kind of wrote down was treat every day, no matter what year it is, if it's year 1 or year 12, treat every day and every play as if you've never heard it before. And so something that I really, took time to understand was you got to trust the process and you got to respect the process along the way. And I think that was a big thing for my career early on, was that I wanted to come in as a professional. And then today, I think because I've treated every day as a new day and as if I've never heard it before, I've learned and retained so much information and experiences and visualization that the only way is up. And I think that's good fortune, good health, and all that stuff, but also it's having great teammates and leading those guys too as well, to giving them the vision and expertise and showing them this is who you can be. This is what we're going. This is the expectation, and having those high standards, whether if it's during the season, playoff time, or if it's out of season.
I mean this as a compliment, not an insult. I think you're the same guy you've been for the last few years. I think two things are different. You're throwing the ball more, and Metcalf is special. He really is. And not like you didn't have other good receivers, but he's special. And Collinsworth said something on Sunday night's game that he said he was talking to you about Metcalf, and you said this guy has a chance to be one of the best receivers ever. He has a chance to be Jerry Rice, and I get to be Montana. Like, I can't believe it. Did you say that, and do you feel that way?
Yeah, I do. I think that he's bigger than Jerry.
Right, true.
He's bigger. He's probably faster, but he's got Jerry had such great work ethic. When I said that, what I meant by that is that, one, I meant it. And number two is that I think that Jerry Rice had the work ethic. He had the work ethic every day. I mean, I've seen cut-ups of Jerry. I've seen cut-ups of Jerry Rice's practice film. Obviously, everybody knows the hills and running the hills and all that. He's just he's different in that way. But also is that his work ethic at practice, every ball that he caught, he was running to the end zone. Every ball. And he set the tone at practice, which right behind him, here comes Terrell Owens playing behind him and learning from him. And then, all these other great receivers as he was, number 80 for the 49ers. And meanwhile, Joe Montana's spinning the ball to him. And, I think that quarterback receiver relationship, it starts with vision. It starts with work ethic and the relationship and the amount of time that you spend together and also just being clutch, being clutch. And I think that the thing that I know that DK and I have built is a real pure, strong relationship and spent so much time together. We spent so much time together this offseason, Bill. I mean, we spent time in, Mexico. We went down there for a week and a half right before kind of COVID kind of blew up. And we kind of just got in isolation there and just got to train down there in the heat, 100 degrees, and just the amount of reps that we took to perfect it and perfect it and perfect it and perfect it. I mean, 2.5, 3, 4 hour throwing sessions and then working out and swimming out. I actually taught him how to swim. He didn't know how to swim. So, it's just all the time that we spent together. And then, we went back down. I also lived in San Diego too. So we went down to San Diego and we spent time there for a couple of weeks. And, he kind of lived with me for a little bit there. And so it was, there's no mistaking it. And, my challenge to him every day is let's set the tone every day.
Yeah.
Let's push the envelope. Let's try to be the best version of ourselves every single day. And let's try to be great every single time.
That 4th and 10 against Minnesota, just watching, I'm like, he's throwing it to Metcalf. They should just put 7 guys on him. You throw it to Metcalf, he ends up making the play anyway. I think the Rice point is really key, though. To me, he's like the lost great football player. He's the best wide receiver I've ever seen. He was, to me, it's like not even an argument. In football, we could argue about Brady or Manning and all these different things. And it's not like basketball where the hierarchy is so obvious. And with football, it's really like Jerry Rice was the best receiver ever. Lawrence Taylor was the best pass rusher ever. Everybody kind of agrees on those two things. But Rice, all the stuff he was doing was so far ahead of his time with how he worked on his body, the repetition, the practice. Like, people weren't doing that in the 80s. Now everybody's doing it. And you look at DK and you're like, all right, this is like Rice. If you put Rice back into a lab, you added 30 pounds of muscle. You made him bigger.
Maybe more.
Yeah. Gave him the work ethic. But it's crazy. He goes at the end of the second round. I remember talking to Pete about it, but when we were doing one of the podcasts, I was like, I don't understand. How did you get this guy? Like, how good is he? And he's like, he's special. Pete just like goes nuts talking about him. But when did you know he was special? Immediately?
Yeah, when we actually had the FaceTime, as soon as we got drafted, he was passionate about it. He said, when we working. And I said, as soon as you land, we'll be ready. So I think that he had that was the first question he asked, when we working. And I think it wasn't about the flash and the glamour. Yes, he's tall, he's fast, big muscles and all that kind of stuff. And he's all the things that you could put together on a video game. But the reality is that, he's about the work. He's about the work. And a lot of guys aren't, and
right.
Not on our team. Our guys are, but he's about the work and he loves it. He loves the game. He loves being physical in every way, in terms of, blocking and catching and everything. And so he wants to be great at his craft.
Speaking of video games, you got to 99 in Madden. I think they announced today. You're a 99 club guy.
Pretty sick, man. Yeah, Bill. It was Pretty cool. Yeah, DK surprised me. I was doing my podcast, Danger Talk, with King Griffey Jr. actually. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting there with Junior. We're talking about, Seattle legacy, life, his success, his beautiful swing, and everything else. And next thing I know, as a middle of my podcast, DK comes in. I don't like surprises, but I hate surprises. I don't like surprises. Next thing I know, DK walks in. I'm like, what are you doing here? He interrupts the podcast. He's like, man, I got to tell you, you're part of the 99 Club. And so we got 99 over on the one side of the phone with King Griffey Jr. And then I get to be a 99. DK's going to be the next 99. So it was pretty cool, man. Just, dream come true. I remember playing Madden when I was a young kid.
Oh, yeah.
And just throwing my controller and everything else. I've been playing my friends all day, all night. And just, but to get there, I think is a blessing.
Good one.
And it's about staying there. It's about continuing to put the work in.
You mentioned Griffey. So there's like the Seattle. I have a real soft spot for Seattle. I love the city. And I'm also still outraged that they stole the Sonics. But there's a Seattle hierarchy. Griffey's in it. You're obviously in it. Who else is in it? Who are like the icons?
Oh, man. Well, Griffey for sure.
Griffey, Griffey was the coolest baseball player for the entire 90s.
Well, he brought swag to the game. He changed the game of baseball. I mean, how he hit the ball was just. But one of the things that we talked about on the Danger Talk podcast was that he loved defense. He's like, man, I loved hitting home runs, but he hit 630 home runs, 630, and but the thing he loved is he loved diving for balls and throwing guys out at home and jumping the fence and making plays and robbing those home runs like that. And so, he loved that part of the game. He was sitting there, on the podcast he's sitting on the podcast with his 12 Gold Gloves. He has like 10, but like really 12 behind him.
Yeah.
And I think he's gotten 12 or whatever. A lot of Gold Gloves. All I know. And so, he's the epitome of success and what it looks like. And I was 17, 18 years old when he got drafted and played with his dad when he was 19, 20 years old and back-to-back home runs, all the success. But in terms of Seattle, Junior for sure, number one. Sue Bird, she's right there. She's right there. She's amazing.
Largent? Is Largent in there still or no?
Steve, I would say Steve Largent's up there for sure.
Because he was the only great Seahawk for 20 years, basically.
Yeah, they've had some good ones. Steve Cortez Kennedy, unfortunately, he's not here anymore. But they've had some really good. But in terms of the best in the world, you got Sue Bird, King Griffey Jr. I think Steve Largent was amazing. But you have had some special.
And then Kevin Durant should have been in there.
He should have been there. And then when they stole away our Sonics, we got to get the Sonics back. But it was cool listening to Junior talk about just his success and his family and how his mom was super competitive. His mom always pushed him, and his mom would cuss people out, and just get him going and just be so competitive. I learned so much from him, on Danger Talk, just because it was cool talking to one of my idols that I've always loved and a guy that I've always learned from. So that was awesome. I need to ask you a question. I just started up, my Danger Talk podcast, and it's been awesome, along the way because, I've had some special guests. We've had Shaq talking about his relationship with Kobe and just his success over the years. We've had that was the first episode on Danger Talk. We had second episode was pretty cool. We talked to John David Washington. Third one was actually Randy Moss talking about Bill Belichick, your boy, cussing out him and Tom Brady at practices. We had Chris Paul talking about the NBA bubble and Candace Parker, and her, what women's sports means to the world and all the amazing things and what she learned from Kobe. And then as I said, we just had King Griffey Jr. and I think Matthew McConaughey is coming on next week. But along the way, it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited to get Matthew McConaughey because he's so entertaining. He loves that Texas football, obviously. But I want to get some advice from you, just in terms of your podcast and how I can make my podcast as special as yours, man. You've put so much work in, and what was your vision when you first started yours?
First of all, I appreciate that. Well, I started mine in 2007. We didn't even really understand. I just thought it was cool. It was like radio on demand. I had no idea it was gonna kind of turn into what it became. But I think the cool thing that I eventually learned, probably around the second year was the long form conversations, what an advantage it was. Cause I think podcasts, it's really hard to not be authentic. And if you're not authentic over the course of an hour, you're probably going to get exposed. And I think that's what stood out to me is like, you really get a feel for what somebody's like. And I think for you, with some of the people that you're going to have on, I'm really fascinated, like your stuff on like what your routine is and how you approach things. And you're talking to other people about how they approached their craft. That's probably would be the number one thing I would want out of that, because that's like a whole separate secret club you guys have, right? Like if you had Brady on, you could do 2 hours just on shit you guys are doing that nobody else is doing. I mean, and that would be the advantage you have, right? And whether you're doing an actor or a singer or anybody, like approaching how they do their craft versus how you do it, I think would be really interesting.
Yeah, it's been fun for me because, like I said, I've been able to interview some of the best of all time. And I think the cool part about Danger Talk has been, I think people not just getting to know the guests, but also people getting to know me. Because I've been, to be honest with you, I've been more in a, I wouldn't say a shell, but for my first few years, you're just trying to get ready to play the game. You just want to play and be great and be young and do your thing. But now I think there's a responsibility for me to affect the world and affect young kids and to use my platform for greater good. And I think God's given me vision and the ability to talk about what I get to do in my craft. And I've learned it. I've been able to, you never fully master it because you're always working it. You're always working in your craft. And so for me, what I love talking about in Danger Talk is just, people's crafts. And that's what I'm excited about along the journey. So I've always listened to your podcast and I've always loved it because as you mentioned, it's so genuine and authentic when you listen to people and get to have those one-on-one conversations. That's always been the part that I've really loved because I get to do, 5-minute, 10-minute interviews every week. And it's like, okay, you talk about football and I try to be very straightforward. I don't want to give any information away. And
right.
Boom, you do that. But this is really, these conversations are what I really love and getting intimate, and hearing all that. So
the big one you need to get LeBron on and just talk about what he does to his body and all that. Like I've listened to that for like 5 hours. Cause we had Jared Dudley on and he said LeBron had 2 hyperbaric chambers in Orlando. I mean, LeBron, that he has this whole process. It was like, well, just cause I'm in the bubble, I'm not wavering from what I do every day for my body. I'm not gonna be able to recover.
It's so true. Just because I'm in my own little COVID bubble here at home. You got to have everything, prepared. I'm getting people tested every single day and, people who help me and Sierra, and it's a process for sure, but you have to adjust to it. And I think that's been part of the cool conversation. I think obviously on Danger Talk, having Matthew McConaughey is going to be cool talking about his career, not just in acting, but just his life in general and everything else. We have some pretty cool guests. I think Tom's going to come on at some point, I believe. And LeBron, somebody, he had the NBA playoffs. So I wanted him to do his thing, but at some point, I think it'd be a great conversation talking about just preparation and what it looked like.
And with the COVID stuff, the best way to approach that is just to not think about it at all, right? You just be like, worry about the game I have this week. Who knows what's going to happen to the schedule? Try to bank some wins because this might end up being a 12-week schedule. Who knows? There's no way to predict it.
Yeah, there's no way to predict it. We talk about it though. Us, for the Seahawks, we talk about it all the time because it's so important to keep guys' awareness levels high. And when you're getting tested every day, your awareness level's high naturally. But it's easy to get comfortable. And the thing is that we can't get comfortable. For all NFL players, we have to take care of our families and our loved ones and our friends and our teammates and our coaches. I worry more so about the coaches than the players even. Because, the coaches are the ones that are 50, 60, 70 years old sometimes. Coach Carroll's 60 years old. So, and so taking care of himself is really important. So we have that responsibility as players to do that too.
Okay. This was fun. I enjoyed talking to you. I've enjoyed watching you. I've learned never to bet against you. You and Rodgers are my 2. I'm never betting the money line on the other team for a significant amount, guys, because it's just not fun to be, especially that like Sunday night where it's like Oh man, they didn't get the first down. Really, Russ is just going to go down and take it. But it's been fun to watch you throw more. I feel like you're the same guy. It's the equivalent of like, James Harden can score 35 points a game if he has more shots. Like you're throwing more and you're going to have better stats. But it's been awesome to watch you over the years, and I enjoyed having you on. Good luck with your podcast. Let me know if I can help in any way.
Yeah, man, it'd be great to have you on sometime.
Let me know. I'm here.
You're the best in the world at what you do. I'm grateful for you. Grateful for you having me, and we'll have to get dinner sometime. I'll get the tab. I'll get the tab.
Well, we should have dinner and figure out the Sonics thing. Because that could really be your legacy in Seattle, other than the Super Bowls, is bringing basketball back.
I know.
They have that's a top 7 NBA city. It's an outrage.
It's top 5. It's top 5. I mean, the place goes nuts. But we'll make it happen over the next 5-10 years, hopefully.
And they have the money for the luxury suites. That's the part I can't figure out. Like it's like Golden State, basically. They would have all the rich people in the Seattle area would want to get courtside luxury. That's how you pay for the teams.
Well, the state of Washington loves basketball, so Seattle loves it. We got to bring the Sonics back.
Post-football season, we'll talk. All right, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, buddy. Always a pleasure. Go Hawks, baby.